I have a very short story for you tonight about my life among the Mormons. You're familiar? I think I've told this group in the past that I'm a classical scholar. This means that I teach Latin and ancient Greek at Temple University. Grad school was a tricky, penniless time for me. And when I ran out of funding at my university, I had to go out in search of job opportunities. And those are kind of slim for a classical scholar, in case you're not familiar with that job market. The most promising, and I think there were few applicants, most promising job listing I saw was to teach for 2 years, temporary position, at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. Beautiful Utah. I'm experiencing chills. I have to slow down. I should back up a little bit. I mean, you're all familiar with the Mormons. I'm not talking about just you know the sweet young 19-year-old blue-eyed, blonde-haired white guys with the short-sleeve shirts and the ties, riding their bicycles and proselytizing Joseph Smith and the tablet something Moroni. There's a lot to get to know when spending more time with the Mormons, and I must admit that leaving Providence, Rhode Island, I experienced a great deal of dread, knowing that I was heading to a state so far away with such different ways about them. Perhaps the most dread-inducing moment was when I was sitting with a representative of the university signing their honor code. The honor code requiring that I, as a member of the faculty, not engage in lewd behaviors like drinking alcoholic beverages, smoking, drug use, all sorts of things they don't want you to do. No coffee, no tea, no coffee, no tea. No coffee in academia. Can you imagine this? Very clear grooming standards. Short hair for men, no tattoos and piercings, and I paused for a moment, uh-oh, what if they find out? But I figured if they saw my body piercings and tattoos, something else had gone dramatically wrong. So I figured I was probably okay on that count. And when this elder of the church looked me in the eye and said, no premarital sex for 2 years, is that a problem for you? I smiled and I shook my head and I lied through my teeth and said, let's go BYU, go Cougars. Cougars? Freaky, yeah, I know. And so I head off into the land of the Mormons. And teaching ancient Greek, I have all sorts of opportunities to introduce them to ancient world. But I don't want you to get the impression that I'm trying to suggest that the company of Mormons is a bad thing. That I was worried maybe that they'd try to convert me, that it was a cult that would suck me in. None of this really crossed my mind. Maybe some of it crossed my mind a little bit, but I don't want to suggest any kind of religious bigotry. It was just a community of people so good and clean and pure and white and self-righteous like you wouldn't believe. And it was a while before I was comfortable in that environment. Eventually I came to see myself as a missionary to them. I had been worried about their company, but maybe I was going to be the problem. Maybe I was going to be a bad influence. And I've got 1,000 stories that I must be running out of time. I've got 1,000 stories about my time there, but I can't tell you about the coffee incident because it's too embarrassing. I can't tell you about the ski lift incident because it's too outrageous. I could tell you about Bethany, oh sweet Bethany, my favorite student because she was so bright, a prodigy, and destined for graduate school, which was her heart's dearest desire. And, well, one thing you have to understand is that I taught at Brown University, and it was perfectly normal for students to come to my office and say, I'm sorry I wasn't in class, I was too busy with my homework for my 7 classes and my extracurricular activities, stop ringing that bell at me, and the time volunteering at the homeless shelter and all of that, I'm sorry I missed class. My first excuse from a student was Bethany coming to tell me, I'm sorry I missed class a couple of days in a row, I'm pregnant, and I've been really sick in the mornings. And see, I'd been there for a little while, so I was ready for this. Usually you hear, I'm pregnant, and you think, oh God, I'm so sorry. But I stopped before grimacing, and I smiled really big, gritted my teeth, and said, congratulations, Bethany. But then, of course, she told me that this meant that grad school was out of the picture, that she was going to be a wife and a mom, and her church wouldn't suggest anything else was a good idea. But there were so many others, and I think I I did wield a good influence. At least one student left the school because their rules and strictures prevented him from doing a favor for a friend who was in trouble. And no, cut that out. The last story was like 20 minutes long. Is that really fun? Well, in the end, it's the line between good and bad influences is like, oh, this is sliding right down. It is trickier than black and white.